The question that comes up all the time in consultations is, how do I do a deal with pepper? I have regular consultations with people who have debt difficulties, people who have an overhang of debt from the 2006, 7, 8, the Celtic Tiger crash. And the question that comes up all the time in consultations is, how do I do a deal with pepper? Or how do I do a deal with such and such a lender? And I find myself telling people the same thing time and time again. And that is, pepper or any other lender will only do a deal if it's in their interest to do a deal. Let me explain. Let's say you go to Pepper, or any other lender for that matter, and let's say you have €1 million worth of debt, and let's say you've assets worth 100,000, and let's say you can go to Pepper and say, look, I have no money, I have 50 grand worth of assets, I owe you $1 million, I owe you $1 million from the Celtic Tiger crash, or 100,000, or whatever it is. In that situation, the bank is going to take cold, hard, rational look at whether they should take the deal or not. The question is it in the best interest of the bank or not? The likelihood is it is in the best interest of the bank, because there's going to be nothing else for them. In other words, the guy only has 50 grand or 100 grand of assets and he owes the bank $1 million. He'll never be able to pay it. So it makes sense for the bank to recognise the reality and basically do a deal, cut or stick. On the other hand, I've had people coming to me and they have had very specific situations where they might have a property, a house worth $1 million, and they might owe perhaps $500,000, and they'd like to do a deal with the bank. And the reason they want to do a deal with the bank is because they want to be able to pass on the house that they have, the family home, to their kids, and they don't want to pass it on with debt. Now you have a situation where the person, the borrower, the debtor, has an asset worth maybe $1 million, and they owe, say, $500,000, and they want to do a deal with Pepper, and they want to offer 250 grand or 300 grand or 400 grand or 100 grand, and they're going to go to Pepper and say, friends and family are giving me a dig out, sons and daughters or brothers and sisters or whoever are going to give me a dig out, and I'm able to get you 150 grand or 200 grand or 300 grand. Will you take that in satisfaction of the €500,000 debt? And the bank, of course, won't entertain it. Why would they? Put yourself in the bank's shoes. The bank have an asset, or have the debt charged on an asset worth $1 million. $500,000 is owed. The bank know that if they hang around long enough, and they can hang around long enough, sooner or later they're going to get paid. Because their asset, the asset which is underpinning their loan, is worth $1 million, and they're owed only $500,000. The bank in that situation, Pepper or whoever it is, have all the time in the world. So there's no way, I don't believe, you're going to get a deal. So the bottom line is, if you were thinking about trying to negotiate a deal with a bank, you need to do something that's very, very common sense and very basic. And that is, put yourself in the shoes of the bank. Put yourself in the shoes of the lender and ask yourself, does this proposition, this deal, this proposed deal, does it make sense? And I have to say to you that if somebody has an asset worth $1 million and they only owe the bank $500,000 and they want to tidy up their affairs before they pass on the property perhaps to kids, later generations, why would any bank go for that? It makes no sense. It's irrational. And banks, whatever else they do, they may take risks. But when it comes to doing deals or writing off debt, they don't behave irrationally. They behave rationally. So the bottom line is, it makes sense. If it makes sense for a bank to do a deal, they'll do a deal. But if it doesn't make sense, if it's not in their interest, they won't do a deal. And it makes no sense rather, for a bank to do a deal in circumstances where A, time is on their side, and B, they have an asset which is covering with ease the amount of outstanding indebtedness. It makes no sense. It's irrational to do a deal. So the paradox here, obviously, you probably recognize it, is the more you owe the bank, the more likely you are to get a deal, because the more you owe the bank and the less assets you have, the more sense it makes for the bank not to be throwing good money after bad, not to be wasting their time trying to pursue you if you don't have the assets, if you don't have the capital. If you have 50 grand or 100 grand and that's it, and your earning capacity is shot and you're coming towards the end of your life, where are you going to get an extra 300 or 400 grand to do a deal for, say, 500,000 and to pay off your debt? It's not going to happen. So the bank recognised that. It's in their interest, actually, in those circumstances, to tidy up their balance sheet, do a deal. And the likelihood is they bought the debt for, a certain percentage of the original amount that was advanced, and that's it. But the more money you owe the bank, the less assets you have, the more likely you are to get a deal. If you are asset rich, or if you're cushy enough, or if you are, for some lifestyle choice reason, saying you want to do a deal with Pepper but you want to hold on to the house or hold on to the shop or hold on to the farm, but there's asset cover there for the lender, they're not going to do a deal. Why would they? Makes no sense. Anyway, hope you find this, and as a matter of interest, I'm speaking from personal experience, because the Celtic Tiger wipeout property crash there in 2007, 2008 wiped me out, and I ended up with a lot of debt that I couldn't repay to the bank. But anyway, hope you find the video useful. If you do, I'd appreciate if you hit the thumbs up button down below. Thank you very much.